The following program contains adult content and sexual themes. Viewer discretion is advised. And it contains murder. Lots and lots of murder.
You stinking bastard.
People tell me, hey, you're gonna go die and go to hell. At least I'm not grown.
For 911, where's your emergency?
Oh, this is Sandy. For 31 Rock, Black Plymouth Road.
What's the
Send the
problem?
police. Send the police.
And he goes, don't be a hero, mate. And I said, I'm not trying to be a hero, but the police are coming.
One in the chest, one in the head. Fired by Detective Sergeant Roger Rogerson.
I was branching out. That's when the cannibalism started, eating of the heart and the arm muscle.
I would have nailed Carl Williams' hands to a coffee table and just pulled it out of his backside. Carl Williams is a wobbly bottomed little cherub-faced little boy whose life would be.
I'd harm someone each time I'd kill someone. There'd be an enormous amount, especially at first, enormous amount of horror, guilt, remorse afterwards. But then that impulse to do it again would come back even stronger.
Hi, I'm Tara Sarabin.
And I'm Barney Black.
And we do Bloody Murder.
We're a weekly true crime podcast focusing on some of the lesser-known crime stories from Australia.
And indeed around the globe.
What will you be covering this week, Tara, Barney?
Well, in 1959, Kevin Simmonds was the object of the biggest manhunt ever witnessed in New South Wales. But there is a tragic postscript to the story of this knockabout knucklebutt from the bush.
Oh, okay. I like the sound of that.
How about you, Tara?
Well, I'm actually doing a patron request case from Jim DeGriz. It's a classic crime. With our patron setup, if you're donating more than $5 a month on one of those levels, you can actually pick a case that we will cover for you. And Jim has chosen Charlie Starkweather.
Yeah, make it a murder case.
Well, obviously, we're not called bloody fishing, are we?
No.
So Starkweather was an American spree killer who killed 11 people with his 14-year-old girlfriend, Carol Ann Fugate. This was the inspiration for the movies Badlands and Natural Born Killers, amongst others. So it had a big impact on...
So you're doing 50s as well?
Yeah, 1950s.
Hey, sit on it.
Yeah, we're both doing the, was it Happy Days kind of scene?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why was he in office in a toilet?
Because he was actually gross and stupid.
Yeah, but he just and then Mrs. Cunningham would go and sit on his face or something, didn't he?
I don't think she did that. They had more like an Earth situation, like unresolved sexual tension. But there would be some slappers who would cling to him every time he clicked. When anyone's office is in a toilet and they're twice the age of the teenagers that they're hanging out with, they're not cool.
Yeah. I think Mrs. C was into it.
She definitely had the hots for him.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you saw her husband. He didn't seem like he'd be that hot.
I can't believe you would say that about Tom Bosley.
I'm talking about, in the sack.
Oh, no, I went off like a firecracker. That's what I hear.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah, Tom Bosley.
Kind and generous lover?
Yeah.
Or just a really, really good at the jackhammer?
Was it Tom Bosley? Or was that guy from Charlie's Angels? I get them mixed up.
I have no idea. He was like a big, fat American dad. They kind of all blur for me.
Hey, before we launch, we normally do some listener feedback.
We do indeed. This is an interesting one, I thought, anyway. Moses Hernandez got me onto this. It's a video that I've put in our Facebook group, and it's about the Dewey Decimal System of death. So Thomas Hargrove, a former journalist and numbers geek, has worked out some algorithms for spotting when and where serial killers are active in the USA. I found it really, really interesting. He runs an organisation called the Murder Accountability Project that I intend to look into further.
Oh, I've never heard of this.
No, me either.
Interesting stuff.
But yeah, it's like a 4-minute video, and it basically goes into his theory and gives you examples of how he's used putting in data, essentially, to be able to figure out MOs and locations and similarities and go I think right here in Ohio, you guys have an active serial killer. And he has evidence that it's worked, that he actually put the police onto a serial killer. They ignored him, and the guy killed 7 more people.
Wow.
But it's definitely worth a look. Look, some people might think it's bullshit, whatever, but I thought it was pretty fascinating, and I want to look further into his whole organisation.
Sure. Hey, Alison Shields said, will I never discover Barney's favourite surfing destination?
Well,
no, you won't, because it's a secret spot. It's my secret spot.
It's your secret part of the ocean that no one else knows
And
about.
I haven't been there since I was 14. I haven't surfed since I was 14.
I
don't
know.
what I'm not really a surfer.
Yeah,
I
but
did surf.
you said that you surfed. There was an episode where I was talking about...
Oh, yeah, I used to surf when I was a kid. But
Yeah.
then I discovered booze and broads.
He
and
discovered
that was the end of that.
titties and he gave up. I've never considered you much of a surfer dude because I grew up near Byron Bay and I was surrounded by those blonde tan fuckers and you don't really strike me the same way. Chico roll in one hand, Big M in the other.
And a Violet Crumble and a Chiquito.
I don't think people know what they are, except our 17% of our audience who are Australian. G'day.
G'day.
All right, well, Jay Arthur is one of the many people on Twitter that I'm currently having like flame wars with because they're getting all like, what? It's July. It can't be cold where you are. Are you crazy? July's a summer month. And in fact, he said, like, what, at Christmas, do you build snowmen out of sand and go caroling in shorts? I call bullshit on your entire hemisphere. Whoa! Like,
I think
totally...
Jay Arthur deserves a smackdown.
Well, I believe that he just, he tried to step off.
Wow, yeah.
Is that what it's called? It's almost like he challenged me to a dance battle.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Well, you're pretty fly, Tara. I'm sure you can handle it.
I totally can.
You can handle yourself.
I'm actually quite enjoying this, but yeah, it's odd.
Hey, Stephanie says, shit in a bucket is slowly becoming a thing in my office. A couple of my co-workers heard me say it one day, thought it was hilarious, and started saying it. Yesterday I heard someone by our fax say it. If I end up in a meeting with HR, it will be worth it. Well, if you do end up in a meeting in HR with Linda, because they're all called Linda.
They are all called Linda.
That it is known.
Mm-hmm.
Just send it on to me, man. I'll
you'll set her straight.
I'll set her straight.
So you're pretty happy that people are like saying shit in a bucket now? Because you've been trying to make that happen for
it's a thing.
long.
It is known.
Wow. Yeah, I think Barney's a little bit proud, which is nice.
Oh, my bosoms are swollen.
Well, they've always been swollen. Adrian Kay said that he's invented a drinking game for our show where you drink every time Tara drops an F-bomb and every time Barney goes, in disgust at something. So in case Adrian's listening, let's drop a few of those so he has to get super drunk.
Fuck.
No, I got to say that. Fuck.
Duh.
Fuck. There we go. Adrian's drunk already. If you're trying that at home, you are too.
Thanks to everyone who is sending case suggestions and liked our new Facebook page.
Oh, yeah, we had to do the Facebook page thing. It's a cynical marketing exercise. It's just like you have to have that. And now they just keep trying to like upsell us to like pay money so that we like get in people's faces more. But, we're going to have the page.
Hey, Tara, I did a Captain Moonlight shirt. There's one up on our merch store.
I love it. He's got a little love heart on his collar.
Yeah. I thought maybe have a little black tear under his eye, but it was too trashy.
I don't know. That's a little bit sort of like prison chola.
Check out our merch store. There's links to that in the show notes.
On Podbean.
Well.
Do I launch?
Yeah, do it.
All right. This is a long one because it's kind of complicated. Charles Raymond Starkweather was born on November 24th, 1938 in Lincoln, Nebraska. He was the third oldest of 7 children. His father, Guy, a handsome and friendly fellow, was a carpenter who could only work sporadically due to having back problems and rheumatoid arthritis in his hands.
Ah, like Jesus.
I don't think Jesus started off with those, but he did end up with them, I think.
He did.
Oh, you just mean being a carpenter, don't you?
Yeah.
All right. I thought you were like assuming all of them were true. He was pretty hot. I know a lot of dudes who ended up identifying as homosexual, who their first man that they had a thing for, they were like raised religiously, was Jesus. Like they see him hanging on the cross and they're like, he looks pretty fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a thing. I'm sure there's some ladies out there that were like,
sitting
Jesus.
in church, yeah, I'd tap that.
Yeah. So there goes our religious listeners. I thought I was trying to alienate people country by country, but I figured out a way to do a lot of countries at once. Anyway, Starkweather's mother, Helen, was a petite redhead who is no doubt the reason that Charlie was a ranger.
Oh, no.
Yeah, all the photos of him are in black and white, so not everyone knows that he was a ginger. Also, he used to put black shoe polish in his hair to try and hide the fact of his gingerness from society.
Yeah, what, he put shampoo on his bloody shoes?
What?
Shampoo on his shoes because of the shoe polish on the hair. See what I did there? Really wasn't worth explaining.
Yeah, it was pretty shit, actually. Thanks for that. His mother would work as a waitress to cover the family financially during the periods when his dad couldn't work. But with 7 kids, this meant that the family was quite poor. However, they always had food to eat and a roof over their heads and were considered a respectable family with well-behaved children. So that's nice.
It doesn't sound like my family.
I was going to say, actually, your kids are well behaved, just not to you.
Yeah.
I like that one of your kids is wearing your senior knucklebutt badge right now.
Oh, he just went, yoink, I'll have that.
He's actually junior knucklebutt.
That's right.
If the truth's going to be told. So Charlie was born with genu varum, which is probably not how you say it, but it is in fact a mild birth defect, which gave him bow legs. So of course he used to get teased at school for that because kids pick on the lamest stuff. And Lord of the Flies was a non-fiction book.
What are you doing, riding your invisible horse?
Yeah, that's pretty much what they said. I actually had a really handsome flatmate who was bow-legged, and it did not hurt his chances with the ladies in the slightest. And if that wasn't enough evidence for you, Salt and Pepper, in the opening of Shoop, they're actually trying to chat up a bow-legged dude. I played that for you before, remember? And she's like, no, not you, the bow-legged one.
Oh, wow. Can you do that in Russian, please?
Not you, the bow-legged one.
Could.
Make me want to shoop. So I'm not quite sure I nailed that, but whatever. Charlie also had a speech impediment, which he got picked on for as well. And Salt and Pepper don't have a sexy song about that, to the best of my knowledge.
An American accent is a speech impediment. Oh, I guess it is.
No, he had no, it wasn't just the American accent.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, I can see why you got confused there. He was a slow learner, like someone else in this room. I'm
a learning Barney.
Slowly.
No.
Learn like a snail. Learn like a snail.
At normal speed.
Okay, so he wasn't a fast learner. Teachers were often calling him out for not applying himself. But it turned out that part of the problem was that he had severe myopia, which messed with his vision and meant that he couldn't read what was written on the chalkboard.
And he probably read wet the bed.
Well, mop it up with gingerbread. Yeah, he was a period head. What was the other one they do? Red hair, no luck. Red pubes, no fuck.
Red hair go nowhere.
It's like the one form of racism that's still okay. Except it's not okay. Is this a point where I say, I have a ginger friend?
I don't have any ginger friends.
You
and there's
do.
a reason for
Lucy
that.
Boosie is a ginger. Come on.
She's a strawberry fucktard. She's not really a proper... She's a daywalker.
Yeah, Chris is a daywalker too. Yeah. But they have ginger tendencies. So anyway, the one subject that Charlie did excel at was gym. He was strong and competitive athletically, and the physicality gave him an outlet for his teenage frustrations. Although only growing to 5'5", he became quite strong and began bullying those who used to bully him, which is fair enough. But then he crossed over and just became a little ginger bully himself.
Is this about Tom Cruise?
Actually, it might be. I bet Tom Cruise wouldn't play this guy, though, because he likes to play characters that are meant to be 6'4", and he just wears, like, stilts. So his high school friend Bob Van Bush, who ended up marrying Carol Fugate's sister, had this to say about Charlie. He could be the kindest person you've ever seen. He'd do anything for you if he liked you. He was a hell of a lot of fun to be around too. Everything was just one big joke to him. But he had this other side. He could be mean as hell, cruel. If he saw some poor guy on the street who was bigger than he was, better looking or better dressed, he'd try to take the poor bastard down to his size. So that must have been a full-time job because, like, everyone was bigger than him.
Bring it on, Charlie. I could take him.
Yeah, you just hold his head while he swiped at you and he wouldn't reach you. After seeing the movie Rebel Without a Cause, Charlie became obsessed with James Dean and started trying to do his hair the same way and dressing like him in tight blue jeans and cowboy boots. So, like, budget Jimmy Dean cosplay, essentially.
Lame.
He really related to his rebellious screen persona and believed, like any good superfan, that he had found a kindred spirit in him. Kind of like you and Rodney Dangerfield, hey, Barney?
That's not true.
I think it's true.
Me and Bruce Willis.
Yeah. You did actually dye your hair blonde that time.
Yeah.
When Bruce Willis was in The Fifth Element. And you were all like, just call me Bruce.
I looked pretty cool.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
it was kind of cool.
Oh.
That was a big fanboy moment. That was your Starkweather James Dean moment.
Really, you think?
Well, kind of. Is it not the same thing? Doing your hair like a celebrity? So he dropped out of school at 16 and got a job loading trucks at the Western Newspaper Union warehouse. His boss thought that he was a dumbass, saying sometimes you'd have to tell him something 2 or 3 times. Of all the employees in the warehouse, he was the dumbest man we had. It's a bit harsh.
Wow.
Charlie had a bone to pick with society. He didn't really see a future for himself in it other than menial jobs, poverty, and a slow, mundane slide towards death. Carol Ann Fugate was born on July 30, 1943. She was an attractive brunette who had a rebellious streak as well.
How did she spell her name again?
Yeah, I was going to get to that. Like, her parents couldn't spell Carol. It's spelled Caril. Caril.
Isn't Carol a man's name?
It can be. I believe someone in the heat of the night was called
Carol O'Connor.
Well, there you go.
Oh, fine actor.
So how weird to call a woman Carol.
Yeah, it's weird.
Not that she was a woman. She was a freaking child.
It's like that Ian is a cat's name.
Yeah, and yet some humans still get called it. I don't understand. I'll never understand. So Charlie's best bud, Bob Van Bush, see why I got into trouble with that, began dating her older sister Barbara in 1956, and the four of them would hang out together a lot. Hey, sit on it, Carol.
Did they go to Elle's Diner?
They did. They sipped milkshakes. They ate burgers.
Yeah.
They didn't go to the bathroom, though, because it was weird because Fonzie was always in there. Some of the things I read said that Charlie used to date Barbara before he went out with Carol, but not everything said that, so I have no idea what was actually happening. Soon after Carol turned 13, she and Charlie became an item. He was 18 at the time, so that's a bit fishy, I reckon. I mean, I know it was the 50s, but...
Twice your age minus 7.
No, half your age minus 7. Well, twice her age minus...
Right, three times your age
minus
plus your pants size.
12 plus 7.
Yeah, 12.
And then how many toes you have plus the day you were born in the month.
But you've got to take 5 off if you're a ranger.
Yeah, well, he did, and that's the problem. I think we just figured it out.
Yeah, nice.
By the way, that was our algorithm for murder. It was, in fact, the Dewey Decimal System of bloody murder. So anyway, soon after Carol turned 13, they went out. He thought she was really clever and he treated her well. Being a 13-year-old child, she thought that he was really cool and didn't get that he was a hot mess of a volcano waiting to explode. She was thrilled that someone older was into her. He had a car and a job and liked to give her gifts. They're both kind of kids, really, the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
But I'm not young.
What kind of gifts?
Like teddy bears and shit, like nothing particularly great.
Oh, right.
Hickeys, probably.
I got my girlfriend a Nintendo Ambio, those little toys, and she made me breakfast.
She made you breakfast? I feel like the breakfast was
good.
probably less expensive, but yeah, everybody won. Or maybe did she give you like gold-plated breakfast?
No, it was just, poached eggs and coffee as well.
That's amazing. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it more.
She made a second coffee, but it wasn't so good.
Oh my God. I'm getting bored.
Well, I'll press on then.
Yeah, I probably should. I don't know. I thought maybe I'd just give up. The warehouse where Starkweather worked was near Carol's school, so he got to see her every day.
Newspaper warehouse?
Yeah, it was a newspaper warehouse.
Good.
And why did you...
See, I learn, I listen.
Oh, were you just proving that you'd listened to something that I said earlier?
I was just saying, yeah.
Right, that was helpful.
Good.
How?
Just keep going, Tara.
Well, I'd like to, Barney. Why don't you just shut up and let Tara speak? Said no one ever. Except Tara. I'm just going to say fuck, so Adrian has to take a drink. Fuckity fuck. Drink it up, Adrian. So Charlie taught Carol to drive, although she was too young to get a license. Carol actually got into an accident while driving his car, and Charlie's dad had to pay for the damages to the other car as he was part owner of the vehicle. This caused a massive fight between Charlie and his dad, which got physical, and his parents kicked him out of the house. So on the outs with his parents and working a shitty job, Carol became the centre of his universe. He'd go around telling people that they were going to get married, and for some reason he even told his friends that he'd knocked her up. Like, I don't get how that's a good idea when you haven't.
Doesn't sound helpful, does it?
Well, it wasn't helpful. It actually created a lot of unnecessary drama when her parents heard about it. I mean, he's hanging out with, like, her sister's boyfriend and her sister. Like, dude, come on. Charlie got a new job as a garbage man, which was not a great financial move, but the hours meant that he could be finished work by the time Carol got out of school.
We call it rubbish here.
We do call it rubbish
man.
here.
Yeah, or the dustman.
I've never called it the dustman.
No, you never call it the dustman?
Why would I call it that?
You're a bit rubbish, aren't you?
Yes, I know. His Garbo route meant that he was hauling trash in some of the most exclusive neighbourhoods in Lincoln, which exacerbated his inferiority complex and highlighted the differences in lifestyle between the wealthy people and his own kind of white trash shitty life. He could see no way for himself to legitimately lead the life of power and money he was craving. So he decided, like so many others before and after him, that the only way to get what he wanted was to gangster up and take it.
So
Yeah, things don't end well after people decide that, do they?
No, they certainly don't. Lame.
The day before his first murder, he was in a gas station and he wanted to buy a stuffed toy dog for Carol. Realising he didn't have enough money, he asked the attendant, Robert Colvert, if he could get it on credit and was super pissed when Robert said no.
Yeah, I don't think you can buy soft toys on credit. Oh,
Well, I mean, it's not like it's a necessity and you're like, hey, buddy, can you please just give me this loaf of bread on credit?
yeah,
He didn't need a stuffed dog.
yeah.
But apparently he did, because this is what started him off with his murdery shit. So at 3 a.m. on New Year's Day 1957, Charlie went back to the gas station that had denied him credit with a 12-gauge shotgun. Because that's how you get respect. Robert Colvert was a slight man with a pregnant wife at home. And he was manning the station by himself. Charlie bought a pack of Camel cigarettes and then drove off. Returning a few minutes later, he bought a pack of gum and then drove off again. So either he was just trying to check that Robert was working alone, or he was really indecisive about whether or not he should go through with his plan.
I see.
Sure that he was alone now, Charlie parked nearby, tied a bandana around the lower half of his face, and put on a hunter's cap to try to disguise himself and his ringiness. He then walked back to the station carrying the shotgun. At gunpoint, he demanded that Robert open the safe, but Robert said that only the boss knew the combination, which Charlie seemed to believe, so he had him empty the cash drawer containing about $100 into a bag. He marched him back to his car, made him drive out towards Bloody Mary's place. This is an aside, but apparently Bloody Mary was a crazy old woman who liked to fire a shotgun full of rock salt at people who trespassed on her property.
Oh,
And I love her.
that's future Tara.
That is totally future Tara. I'm surprised it isn't present Tara. So anyway, Charlie made Robert get out of the car and then shot him twice. This is really fucking pointless. And this guy had a pregnant wife at home. So, the ripple effect of this kind of murdery violence is present here as well. But not to Charlie. Our little Ranger friend was on cloud 9 after seemingly getting away with murder. Because what happened was the police theorised that a transient was responsible for the crime. And
It's always a transient, isn't it?
yeah, blame the hobo.
Oh, man,
Let's
lay
play
off the
another
hobos.
game of blame the hobo.
It's a bad enough font as it is.
Yeah, that's right. Hobo font. Don't do it. So he felt like he was a really powerful outlaw who the rules did not apply to, like the Fonz, I guess. He and Carol had some money for a brief period of time, and he didn't feel any remorse for killing Robert. He was like, hey,
Sit on it.
sit on it, Robert. The next day he told Carol about the robbery, but he said that someone else had shot Robert. She seemed to realise the truth, but wasn't fazed by it. I guess that's an advantage of dating a child.
Do you think Potsy and Ralph the Mouth were together?
No.
They did occasionally get together though, I think.
I don't think so. Well, I guess Ralph the Mouth could have talked Potsy into it, because Potsy, this is Happy Days, people. Most people are probably too young to even know what the fuck this is. But Potsy was really dumb, kind of cute. And Ralph the Mouth, you know what? He probably let him suck him off just to make him shut up. It's just do it then. Just here's my cock. Put it in your mouth. I don't want to hear you talk anymore.
I'm really sorry I brought this up.
I think that you're secretly glad. I think the listeners are quite sorry. Anyway, when he came down from his blood buzz and burned through the money, he was bummed out by the reality of his life. Because I guess he was being irresponsible, so he lost his job as a garbage man.
He lost his job hauling rubbish.
Yeah, he did. So he was unemployed.
I lost my job hauling rubbish.
Oh, and my landlady kicked me out.
And my landlady kicked me out.
Because his rent was late.
Because my rent was late.
And Carol's parents were doing everything they could to put a stop to their relationship because they'd heard the rumour that he knocked her up, and they weren't super impressed by that.
And I lied about knocking up my 13-year-old girlfriend.
So on the afternoon of January 21st, 1958, Charlie drove to Carol's white trash shitbox of a house. It had a yard with all garbage and building materials strewn all through
I bet
it.
there were car parts in the front yard.
Oh, there's always car parts.
Yeah.
Or just the body of a car with most of the engine and shit
and
taken out of it.
possibly a tyre swing.
Oh, I don't think they had a tyre swing.
Yeah.
Nah. Probably a tyre, but no swing. That distracted me. So he took a .22 rifle with him. He said he'd bought the rifle in the hopes of going hunting with Carol's stepfather, Marion Bartlett, in an effort to bond with him. According to Charlie, he said Carol's mother, Velda, told him they didn't want him seeing Carol anymore. And then they got into a loud argument, which woke Carol's 18-month-old half-sister, Betty Jean, and resulted in Velda hitting Charlie. By this point, we were all thinking it. He left, but came back soon after, because he loves leaving and coming back. It's like totally his thing. Which is when Marion apparently kicked him off their property. Next, he went to a payphone, called Marion's work, and told them that Marion was sick and wouldn't be able to come in for a few days. He went back to Carol's and waited outside for her to come home from school. When he told her what had happened, she went inside and got in a fight with her mother. Hearing the argument, Charlie went back into the house as well. Shit's about to go down. He said Velda started hitting him again and yelling that he'd gotten Carol pregnant. He hit her back and then went and got the gun. When he came back into the house, Marion apparently came at Charlie with a claw hammer, so he shot him in the head.
This is Charlie's version of events, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, that's the problem, is
sure
that the only version of events we actually have is Charlie's and Carol's.
Yeah.
That's really a problem, because I don't believe him. I don't believe any of these people. Then he claimed that Velda tried to stab him with a big knife, so he shot her in the face. And then he hit her in the head a few times with the butt of his rifle because she was trying to reach her wailing 18-month-old daughter. Because there's like a little bubby here for this.
Oh, no.
And you know what Charlie did next?
Oh, did he kill the baby?
Well, first he hit baby Betty Jean with the rifle of the butt.
The butt of the rifle?
Yeah.
The butt of your...
The butt of my brain. Here's Charlie's account of what transpired next. It's not good. I picked up that knife and the old lady, I picked up the knife that the old lady had, started to walk into the bedroom, and the little girl kept yelling because you'd fucking hit her. And I told her to shut up, and I started to walk again.
He told the baby to shut up.
He told the baby to shut up. That usually works, right? Must have been a bad baby if it didn't shut up when he told it to. I just turned around and threw the kitchen knife I had at her. They said it hit her in the throat, but I thought I hit her in the chest.
At the baby?
Yes.
Ugh.
He threw the knife at the baby and killed it. Is that one of the grossest things you've heard?
That's awful.
Yeah, it's really sad. God. He's still going now. I went on into the bedroom. Mr. Bartlett was moving around, so I tried to stab him in the throat, but the knife wouldn't go in, and I just hit the top part of it with my hand, and then it went in. Ugh. So... James Dean wept. I mean, seriously.
There would have been a hell of a lot of blood.
Oh, fuck yeah. And I bet James Dean is just like, don't associate this guy with me. He's fucked. It's hard to know for sure what role Carol played in the slaughter of her family or how she reacted at the time. She later said that she'd broken up with Charlie before this shit went down. But she said a lot of things to make herself look innocent after the fact, so it is difficult to know. There were no cameras. What we do know for sure is that Velda's body was dragged to their old outhouse and shoved into the toilet hole.
Oh.
I know. So what is that? It's adding insult to injury to the max. Baby Betty Jean was put in a box and taken to the outhouse too. Marion's body was dumped on the floor of the chicken coop. Charlie and Carol cleaned up the blood inside the house and hung out all night eating potato chips and drinking Pepsi.
Crisps. What flavour chips?
Not salt and vinegar, because these guys are pretty evil.
They're awful.
Wouldn't this make an amazing Pepsi ad? Like, directed by Tarantino? Very controversial.
Oh, yeah. I
Cool
can hear
for the
Steelers
kids.
Wheel playing in the background.
What, like Sweet Home Alabama? Is that what
No,
you're...
Steelers Wheel.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Reservoir Dogs, where the ear gets cut off. Yeah.
Okay. Stuck in the middle with you.
Yeah.
That's more like it. So they hung out at the place for nearly a week with the corpses of Carol's family rotting in the backyard.
Wow, they say romance is dead.
Yeah, but they're clearly wrong. Many visitors stopped by the property during this time. To deter them, Carol put a note on the front door that said, "Stay away, everybody is sick with the flu." And flu spelled F-L-U-E because she's a kid.
I remember that in Badlands.
Yeah. Although suspicions were aroused by this story, the police weren't called in until Carol refused to let her grandmother Pansy into the house.
Sidebar, Tara.
Yes.
Pansy?
Pansy was her grandmother's name. That's a very pretty name for a grandma.
I guess it is. I think it's short for Pansifer.
Panzifer. Panzalina.
Oh, that's better, actually.
Panzabeth. Sure that she had Charlie inside with her, Pansy went to the cops and they came by the property. But by then the house was empty, so the police were satisfied that nothing untoward was going on. Her sister Barbara's husband Bob, who's like a mate of Charlie's, demanded that the police search the entire property, but they refused. So he and his brother searched the yard himself.
Bob Twelvey Bush, or whatever his name was. What's his?
It was Bob Van Buren or something.
No.
Bob Van Bush.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
That was amazing teamwork.
It wasn't it?
We should be involved in some kind of feats of intellect as a team, because we would totally win that.
I can
shit.
barely string a sentence together. That's not.
You can barely string a sentence together. That was perfect.
Oh.
It was like point proven, you know.
Fuck you, Tara.
For fuck's sake, I was agreeing with you this time.
Oh.
It hardly ever happens. You probably don't recognise it,
Okay,
right?
then. You're welcome.
All right. So anyway, when they found the dead bodies in the outhouse and the chicken coop, the police finally started taking this shit seriously. By this time, Charlie and Carol had taken their shit show on the road, but they knew they couldn't get far in Charlie's crappy car. 72-year-old August Meyer was a kind old man and Starkweather family friend who had known Charlie since he was a kid. He lived on a farm 20 miles outside Lincoln, where Charlie used to go hunting. On the 27th of January, they drove around and went out to August's farm, but their car got bogged in the mud on the dirt track leading to his place. They walked the rest of the way, and when they got to the house, Charlie shot August in the head. Isn't that a nice way to greet an old family friend?
No, that doesn't seem right. What was the motive behind that?
Anyone that he kind of came in contact with, he pretty much killed.
Yeah, right.
He's not like really like having a really interesting premise and thought process behind what's going on.
Yeah.
He's just sort of acting instinctively and thinking that he's a badass.
Well, he just killed an entire family, so I guess what's one more?
Well, I guess that he didn't want he didn't want cops to be able to speak to this person and be like, oh yes, I have seen them. They were heading this way or something. I think he was just covering his ass. But he was probably getting off on how gangster he thought he was being.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, Charlie, of course, claimed that he killed him in self-defense, but Charlie's retelling of the murders usually place blame on the victims, so it's unlikely that that's actually true. He also shot August's dog because he's an asshole. Carol and Charlie then stole his money and guns, ate his food, and went to sleep. The next day, a neighbour helped them get their car out of the mud, and they drove up to August's farm via a different road. When they left later, being the Mensa think tank on wheels that they were, they went down the same muddy road and they got bogged again. Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise.
Uh-huh. Yeah, these two. They took the weapons and money and went to the main road to hitch a ride. Friendly 17-year-old Robert Jensen and his 16-year-old girlfriend Carol King picked them up.
Oh, she did that Tapestry album, didn't she?
She did. She found time in the afterlife to make that happen. To thank them for their generosity, Charlie pointed a shotgun at Robert and demanded his money. He then forced them to drive back to an abandoned storm cellar where he shot Robert 6 times. By the way, he got like $2 for this shit. It's just such a dick. Robert's girlfriend, Carol King, was shot once in the head. Her body was left with her jeans and underwear pulled down, and she had been repeatedly stabbed in the stomach and pubic area, but there was no evidence of rape. So Charlie blamed this mutilation of her body on Carol, who was apparently angry at her for being sexually attractive to Charlie.
So he probably tried to rape her.
Yeah, look, that's actually the theory,
is
that
he probably couldn't get it up or something.
So he got mad and like stabbed her several times. Yeah, that's a theory that seems to hold water for me.
Yeah, sure.
Or maybe Carol did it because she was annoyed that someone had the name Carol and it was spelt right.
Well, that would bloody annoy me.
Yeah. I mean, you spell Barney with like 2 O's and a Z, so...
I do not. How dare you?
In another version of the story, he also claimed that Carol was the one who shot her. These two crazy kids. What will they get up to next?
Oh.
The two of them talked about escaping to Washington in Roberts' car, but instead they returned to Lincoln where everyone was looking for them because maybe they actually really were dumb as dog shit. Yeah?
I think they were.
Yeah, by this point in the story, I was actually thinking, you know what? That might be true. They are very young as well. I know most people don't really like...
How old's Charlie at this point?
He's 18.
He's 18, yeah.
Which, look, you are
She's
technically
13.
an adult. Well, she's a bub. She's 13.
Yeah.
Or closer to 14. I don't know. They say 13, they say 14. She's like 13 and a half.
And they're growing up in the middle of nowhere too.
Yeah,
aren't
it's...
they?
Well, Lincoln...
It's a pretty small country town.
No, it's not tiny. I mean, it had rich areas, it had poor areas. It can't be that small.
Looked pretty small in Badlands.
Yeah,
you
but
know.
Badlands was like based on the story.
Isn't that a documentary shot in real time?
Yeah, that's actually footage of what happened.
Yeah.
Crazy, huh?
He does look a lot like Martin Sheen.
Oh my God, he wishes he looked like your
Oh,
young
how
Martin
handsome
Sheen.
was he?
Oh, he was stunning.
I know.
Oh my God. Because I only knew Martin Sheen from like when he was older. So when I saw that, I was like, are you kidding me? Dude, he had it going on.
Oh, keep it in your pants, Tara.
It's too late. It's like
Right.
come out.
Save some panties to throw at me.
No, I'm actually just going to post them all to Martin Sheen now. He's my president. Due to his work as a garbage man, Charlie was familiar with the ritzy areas of Lincoln and chose a particularly stately home to attack next. So C. Lower Ward was a very wealthy industrialist who was good friends with Governor Anderson. What do you think the C stood for?
Cunt.
I wasn't sure if you'd go there or not, but thank you. Charlie entered the house and held his wife Clara and maid Lillian at gunpoint. He even got Clara to prepare waffles for him and Carol for breakfast, and he really got off on the feeling of power having this rich woman wait on him gave him.
Oh, wow.
I know, he's just...
It's so petty, though.
I know it is. It's really... I know he had his own problems, but it's very hard to sympathise with this guy. Like,
Yeah, I know.
It's just pointless. He should have channeled his energies and applied himself in a different field. Charlie stabbed Clara to death and broke one of her dog's necks.
Which, sidebar, Tara, how many necks did this dog have?
Okay, she had 2 dogs.
Oh, right.
And they both had 1 neck each. And they locked one in a room, but he broke the other one's neck.
Oh, that makes more sense.
Yeah, okay. Did you think it was a Tasmanian dog and it had 2 heads?
I don't know. It could have been a goddamn Hydra. Or something.
I'm surprised it wasn't. So, of course, Charlie said that this was in self-defense as well, because that's just his thing that he says. They ransacked the place, packing any valuables and food they could find into the ward's 1956 Packard. When the Lincoln Journal newspaper arrived that afternoon, Charlie was totally chuffed that he and Carol were now stars as they'd made the front page of the paper.
Yeah, it's attention. There's a difference.
I know.
There's a difference between good attention and bad attention. A lot of people don't understand this.
No, you know who doesn't understand
I have
this?
several ex-girlfriends that don't understand that.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's narcissistic goblins.
Yeah.
They don't get the difference. They think any attention is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So that means that you're a bit of a goblin
No, I'm not.
slayer.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Goblin layer.
No, well, I
Barney
made
likes
some
the goblin
mistakes.
sex.
No, I do-
Goblin
I do
sex.
not.
Goblin sex. Barney likes the goblin sex. Why am I saying this? So, yeah, they're stars, baby. Later that evening, when C. Lower Ward came home, Charlie shot him in the face. They both tied the maid Lillian to the bed, and one of them stabbed her to death. But they both claimed, like, Charlie said Carol did it, Carol said Charlie did it, you know, the usual. When the bodies were discovered the next day, the governor called out the National Guard and sealed off the city, patrolling the streets with machine guns, searching for the bloodthirsty teens. The FBI became involved, and a $1,000 reward was offered by the mayor.
oh, the G-men. Get the G-men involved. You know the G stands for government. You know that, don't you?
I thought it stood
What
for
if-
G-spot.
What does the G stand for in G-spot?
Government. The two tried to hide out at Carol's parents' place, which was a super brainiac move.
And they'll tax anything, won't they?
They're taxing all our bits.
I've got 12 in my bottom, apparently.
Batteries aren't the same as G-spots, dude.
Oh.
They're like, what are the big ones called? Like D batteries?
Yeah.
Like car batteries, 12 car batteries up your butt. So anyway, they went to go back to Carol's parents' house because they're fucking stupid.
Well, that seems like a great place to hide out. I'd never think of looking for us here.
I know, the newspaper talked about those murders, like, seriously. Anyway, they decided to head west towards Washington State. They drove all night and crossed over into Wyoming the next morning. They only did this because they went to Carol's parents' house and there were, like, lights on and there were people there. And they were like, oh, shit, I guess we can't go. Wow. Even their thick skulls realised, though, that authorities must be looking out for the Woods car. which they stole. So they were on the hunt for another vehicle. This is when travelling shoe salesman Merle Colson had the misfortune of crossing their path. He was asleep in his Buick on the side of the highway when Charlie woke him up and told him that they were going to trade cars. Merle's lack of enthusiasm for the idea resulted in Charlie shooting him several times.
Though he did sell a sweet pair of hush puppies to him.
Yep, that was the lucky side effect.
Or Adidas, maybe. Pretty fly.
I don't think any of those were around then. Charlie later blamed Carol for this one too. He tended to blame Carol for, well, a lot of shit, but also all the murders that he couldn't bullshit his way into trying to make look like self-defense. He blamed her for all of those. Not sure. He didn't blame her for the dog ones, but that was probably just an oversight.
That dog with two necks.
Carol broke one of their necks, and Charlie broke the... With Merle dead in the passenger seat, Carol jumped in the back, and Charlie got into the driver's seat and started the car. He was unfamiliar with how to release the emergency brake on the Buick, and so he sat there sweating bullets with his dick in his hand for several minutes while he tried to work it out. A young geologist figured they were having car trouble and offered them some help, because this was the 1950s, and most people didn't realise how dark and evil the world really was yet.
Hey,
sit on it. Charlie pointed the gun at him, and he probably figured he was as fucked as the dead guy in the front seat. But luckily for him, William Romner, a deputy sheriff, happened upon the scene.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, timing. And this guy ran off. He's like, I'm just a geologist, don't shoot me. Carol got out of the car.
Yeah, those rock doctors, gutless, aren't they?
I don't know, they're friendly. They offer to help you with your car trouble.
Oh, yeah.
So Carol ran over crying to the officer going Charlie's killed a man, which was a total understatement, right? Charlie ran back to the Packard and drove off at lightning speed. Roma ordered a roadblock and took off after Charlie. More police joined in the chase as they tried to catch up to him.
Oh, a car chase. I love a good car chase. I know you don't care for them.
I think it's boring, but okay. They're just cars, whatever.
French Connection?
Yeah, particularly.
Ronin?
No, I don't care. John Wick did it okay because there was lots of shiny stuff, but UFC. I love UFC, right? Love that. Car chase, whatever.
Guys punching each other doesn't really do it for me, but I like a car chase.
Different strokes for different folks, clearly. Anyway, they were going over 100 miles an hour. It was a pretty fast car chase for those of you who give a shit, unlike me. One of them actually shot out the back window of the Packard, and Charlie suddenly stopped the car in the middle of the highway. Although he resisted at first, Charlie eventually did as the police told him and lay down on the ground. It turns out that Charlie came to an abrupt halt because a piece of flying glass from the broken window had cut his head, and he thought that he'd been shot. One of the officers who arrested him said in disgust, "He thought he was bleeding to death. That's why he stopped. That's the kind of yellow son of a bitch he is." You like that?
Yeah, I did. Now do it in Russian.
No, I think that's inappropriate.
Damn.
Charlie and Carol were extradited to Nebraska at the end of January in 1958. Charlie got to pick if he got done in Wyoming or Nebraska, so he picked Nebraska. Carol's story was that she was Charlie's hostage, and she went along with him because he'd threatened to kill her family if she didn't. The problem with this is that even if she wasn't involved in the murder of her family, she must have figured something was up when they disappeared entirely for several days without giving her a reason, while she and Charlie just hung out at her place
Yeah,
eating
it doesn't
chips.
make sense.
Yeah. Also, it was mentioned in the article on the front page of the newspaper that they got when they were at the Ward's place. And Carol even put herself at the scene in some of her retellings of the story. So, I don't know. Look, there are a lot of people who believe she's completely innocent, but the facts don't exactly line up, at least not the ones that I have seen. So she and Charlie were both charged with first-degree murder and also murder while committing a robbery, and both were to be tried as adults. Charlie's lawyers tried to get him to go along with an insanity plea to avoid the death penalty, but he was too much of an arrogant asshat to do so. He preferred the reputation that came from being a cold-blooded killer to the rep that came from being considered crazy. Because, it's just a short man syndrome ranger when you come down to it.
Well, he must have known the death penalty would be on the table if he.
It was actually on the table in both areas, but the guy.
They can't execute someone who's mentally ill, though.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's completely.
Yeah. I mean, it happens all the time, of course.
Yeah.
We know that.
I don't know. He just thought he was so cool. Like, he just wanted to seem cool.
Oh.
This guy, like, the whole time, that's kind of his thing. So he initially said that Carol had nothing to do with the murders, but later changed his tune when he realised that she was playing the victim and saying that he'd kidnapped her. I've got a quote from him. "She could have escaped any time she wanted," he said. "I left her alone lots of times. Sometimes when I would go in and get hamburgers, she would be sitting in the car with all the guns. There would have been nothing to stop her from running away." Charlie was found guilty of the murder of Robert Jensen, which was the only one he was tried for. I guess once you've got him for one, just do him.
Was that the shoe salesman guy?
Robert Jensen. I actually think that that's the guy in the service station. But he killed 2 guys called Robert. So just give me a second.
It might have been that wealthy industrialist, I think.
Oh, okay. No, Robert Jensen was the one that picked him up in the car.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, with the other Carol.
Yeah. Look, I'm not entirely sure of the reasoning behind only trying him for one thing. I guess if they tried him for everything, when he's going to be executed anyway, because he was sentenced to death.
It's a lot of cost to the state.
Yeah, like unnecessary cost, because they're gonna fry his little ass. He was electrocuted in the electric chair and executed as well on June 25th in 1959. He was electrocuted.
He was hung and given a lethal injection in the electric chair.
In 1959 on July 25th.
That sounds like a fun morning.
Well, yeah, for some people it probably was.
They always do it first thing in the morning, don't they?
Yeah, they seem to. I guess you don't want to sit around all day waiting to die. But I don't imagine that they do that because they want to please the killer.
I don't imagine you get much sleep knowing you're going to be dead the next day. I mean, some countries they do it by surprise. You just don't know when it's going to be.
Look, I think that's probably a good idea if someone is genuinely guilty of a heinous crime. I mean, make them feel like shit. I'm okay with it.
I would much rather be executed in the late afternoon.
Oh, only if I could sleep in during the day.
I want some coffee and some...
Maybe smoke some weed.
Breakfast, smoke some weed.
Watch some true crime. Some Snapped, maybe. That's my current favourite.
It is, isn't it?
I should probably finish this story, though.
Oh, sorry.
Don't you think? As Carol's defence wasn't very credible, she was also found guilty and given a life sentence instead of the death penalty due to the fact that she was an embryo.
Yeah, 13.
She was released on parole in June 1976 after serving 17 and a half years. She ended up settling in Lansing, Michigan, where she changed her name and worked as a janitor at a hospital. She married Frederick Clare.
She changed her name to Bitch Killer.
Yeah, fucking bitch killer. Oh, right. Yeah, she's changed her name to Carol spelt properly.
Yeah.
And worked in a hospital.
Was her last name spelt properly?
Yeah, Carol. No, but her first name was actually spelt properly. Oh. She married a dude in 2007, and they were living in Ohio.
She married the dude? I want to marry the dude.
No, you wouldn't marry her. She's too weird.
And they drank White Russians, and they lived happily ever after.
No, they didn't, because she was seriously injured, and her husband was killed in a car crash in 2013.
Oh.
Yeah. I read that Carol and Charlie never had sex. Like, not everyone's saying this, but there are some articles and, like, some books, in fact. Apparently, she was examined after they were caught and her hymen was still intact. But that doesn't mean that they didn't have sex. Maybe he just had an unusually small penis.
Oh, well, a lot of rangers do.
And maybe they were both super into anal. Who knows?
Well, you know.
Or maybe the old proverb, the ancient proverb is indeed true. Red hair, no luck. Red pubes, no fuck.
Yeah, well, that is an ancient proverb, and there's a lot of truth to that. Red hair go nowhere.
Oh my God!
Wow.
Sorry, red-headed people. We don't
Tell
actually hate you. In case people don't know, Barney almost exclusively goes out with red-headed women. By the way,
I really do dig the redhead.
Yeah, I know. You got a taste for blood orange.
Yeah. I went out with a dark-haired lady once. It didn't work out.
Yeah, I'm sure she was terrible.
She was. Hey, would you like to hear my story?
I would indeed.
About Kevin.
Kevin, hang on. Isn't that your son that's not around anymore?
Yeah, that's right. We don't talk about Kevin.
So is this about him or a different Kevin?
No, this is a different Kevin. There's been lots of Kevins over the years.
Well, yeah, I know, but...
Well, in my family, but in the world, there's been lots of Kevins.
All right, okay, cool. I can accept that.
All right, then. Kevin John Simmonds was born on August 22nd, 1935, in Sydney, son of Australian-born parents John Simmonds, labourer, and his 16-year-old wife, Sheila Finn.
Hey, it's Teenage Bride Month.
After years of travelling the state looking for work, his father John settled with his family in Griffith in 1941. So his dad, he used his horse and cart to carry produce from the surrounding farms to the railway station.
Oh, that's nice.
That's nice, isn't
It's
it?
a little bit Amish.
Yeah. Kevin attended Griffith Public School where he was nicknamed Simo.
Hey, Simo!
Hey,
Sit
Simo.
on it.
Hey, Simo, sit on it.
Hey.
The boys at school regarded him with healthy respect. He was quick to get into a scrap, always in trouble. At 14, he stole money, which his father had been putting aside to buy a car. Police picked him up on a Sydney train, and his bastard father pressed charges.
I don't know. I mean, maybe his dad was at his wit's end and he wanted to buy a freaking car and his annoying child stole his money.
So
I get it.
Simo was sent to juvie, Boys Town.
Oh, they used to always try and make me buy raffle tickets when I lived in Sydney, Boys Town. I'm not sure why a juvie home wants to fundraise.
In the outer suburb, Sydney suburb, for 12 months. Boys Town was a failure as far as Simo was concerned. He merely learned new tricks from some of the inmates.
Well, how to pull pennies out from behind people's ears.
No, sawing women in half.
Well, this comes in handy in later life.
After his release, he drifted north and worked among Italian migrants in the Queensland cane fields. Back in Griffith in 1956, Kevin held a succession of jobs but lost them due either to laziness or pilfering.
So he held a failureism of jobs.
A failureism of jobs, that's right. Well, I see what you did there, Tara. Very, very smart.
Woohoo! Meant to think tank over here.
He even tried to steal his boss's car.
Oh, see, that's not how you keep a job.
No. He had a reputation as a sharp dresser with crocodile skin shoes and black satin shirts.
That sounds like how you used to dress.
Plus, he had a lethal haircut, apparently.
Lethal? Like it killed people?
Guaranteed to make women weak at the knees.
Ah, well, see, I don't think I want that because then I'd just fall over a lot, and that doesn't sound good.
At 18, Kevin was arrested and charged with dozens of offences. He was given 2 years to be spent at a prison in Gosford. He then settled in Sydney. Boyish looking, with a courteous manner and a passion for fitness and fast cars, at only 21 he left a trail of safe-crackings, robberies and car thefts through 2 states.
Oh, he's building himself a little bit of a resume, isn't he?
Oh, the authorities caught up with him. On May 17th, 1957, he was sentenced to 3 years at Goulburn Jail. Kevin Simmonds' periods in jail were timeouts in his continuous career of crime.
He got his period when he got into jail. Yeah, just ignore me. It's advisable at this point.
When he came out of Goulburn on February 16th, 1959, he decided to try armed robbery.
Why not?
Sure, let's give it.
Look, it's good to learn new skills.
With former cellmate Frank Foley, he held up a teller at the suburban North Rose Bay branch of the Commonwealth Bank. He fired a shotgun over the teller's head to show him he was serious. Bang!
He managed not to kill anyone, though. So he wasn't a shit bank robber.
Yeah, they got away with £700.
Hey.
That's a lot of money.
Well, yeah, more than Charlie got away
Pre
with.
1966, Australia had pounds,
I know.
and we had an imperial system of measure, which we got rid of after 1966 and went to metric, like every other country.
Well, it's not every other country, is it?
Yeah, well, there's one in particular.
You're going to talk smack about that? Because I don't know if it's advisable. I'm the one that pisses off entire countries. Don't try and steal my thing.
3 months after the bank robbery, Detective Pat Manning, a former sprint champion, spotted Simo in Oxford Street in Paddington. A TV police show style chase through back alleys and over fences ensued, only to end with a click of handcuffs.
So they got him.
Yeah.
No more running for you, Simo.
You have declared war on society, Judge Amsberg told Kevin Simmonds as he sentenced him to 15 years.
Ooh, that's a while. You know what? They really don't like you stealing money. I bet that if he'd raped someone, he would have got a much lighter sentence, right?
Well, especially in the 50s.
Oh, well, I probably would have given him a lollipop and sent him on his way.
Sit on it.
Oh, they would have been like, he's just being like Fonzie. It's cool.
So that's not the end of this story, Tara. There is more.
Yeah, well, there's no murder yet, so I'm imagining that there's more.
On the afternoon of Friday, October 9, 1959, the alarm sounded at Long Bay Jail. 2 prisoners, Kevin Simmonds, 24, and cellmate Leslie Newcomb, 21, had made a break.
Uh-oh.
Jailbreaker.
Yeah, that's a cool song, AC/DC.
They had forced their way into the prison chapel and crawled through a ventilator duct to the roof. Climbing down to the outer yard, they scaled a water tank and heaved themselves onto a 7-metre wall. They were spotted sprinting along the top.
Wow, this is very physical.
Outside the walls, they saw a woman getting into a car in a hospital car park. Why would you build a hospital next to a jail? Anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't sound right.
They dragged her from the front seat and skidded off at top speed.
Oh, I'm glad they didn't take her with them because you don't
That's
want
not
that.
his style, actually. He's not actually a really violent person.
No.
He's a criminal, but he's not.
You got a little crush on him, don't you?
Yeah, I think
A little
he's-
bit?
A little bit.
Yeah, did his haircut make you go weak at
Well,
the
it is lethal.
knees?
At La Perouse, about 3 kilometres away, they pulled up and ran towards a Botany Bay cemetery. Dozens of police were rushed to the area. Police boats patrolled the foreshores of Yarra Bay and a Navy helicopter fluttered overhead. At night, searchlights stabbed the darkness, illuminating the rain, while the shivering escapees spent their first night of freedom huddled in a freshly dug grave.
Oh, that was very atmospheric.
Oh, thanks. On Sunday, 2 days after their escape, a reward of £1,000 was offered for information leading to their arrest.
That's a lot of money back
That's
then.
a lot of pounds.
Yeah, that's a lot of milkshakes at Al's Diner.
Not strawberry ones.
No, thank you.
In the early hours of that morning, at Emu Plains Prison Farm at the foot of the Blue Mountains, the murdered body of prison warder Cecil Mills was found. He had been bashed over the head. Beside him were some cricket stumps and a bloodied baseball bat.
Wait, hang on. What game do you play with cricket stumps and a baseball bat? Oh, kill the warden.
Kill.
So hang on. They went to another jail?
That's right. It will become clear.
Okay.
2 suits, some shirts, and pairs of shoes were taken. Warder Mills' .38 revolver was missing, and so was his motor car. Police realised his assailants must have been aware of the prison routine. Leslie Newcomb had spent some of his time at Emu Plains.
Leslie?
So he went back to another prison.
He broke out of prison to go to a prison.
Yeah.
Genius. Well, then no one will be looking for him there.
Well, that's right. What became the most extensive search in the history of New South Wales Police Force now began. Roadblocks were set up around Sydney and a watch was kept on a Victorian border. Everyone who had known either of the escapees was brought in and grilled. Apparently this was really big news at the time.
Well, it would be because they're on the lam.
If you were alive in 1959 in Australia, you would know about this case because it was everywhere.
I was alive. I am an 800-year-old vampire.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're showing your age.
I'm showing my maturity, that's for fucking sure.
At Long Bay Jail, 5 warders were reprimanded for the escape. 11 days after the escape, in the early hours of the morning, a milkman on his rounds at Avalon Beach, north of Sydney, was startled when a man waved a revolver under his face and demanded bottles of milk.
He's a milk robber.
Well, Simo was a non-smoker and a non-drinker, and his excessive fondness of milk was his trademark.
Oh my God, like those guys, those creepy family from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia who drink milk.
Yeah, that's right. He told the milkman the police would never take him alive.
Yeah, not after I drink all my milk. It gives me my power.
You'll never take me up alive.
My bones and teeth are too strong.
That's right. No osteoporosis for me. The area was promptly sealed off. Police patrolled the foreshores of Pittwater where early last century runaway convicts from Sydney lived in caves and forests. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. Pittwater. That is not a very inviting name.
Exactly 2 weeks after the breakout from Long Bay Jail, shortly after 9 p.m, Leslie Newcomb was stopped in Oxford Street, Paddington. He had just stolen a motor car and its owner promptly contacted the police. So Leslie was charged with the murder of warder Cecil Mills. He was also charged with escaping, breaking and entering, and the illegal use of 6 motor vehicles, being that he didn't own them, I guess.
And they managed to figure out which ones he took. Okay.
Yeah. An exceedingly nervous Newcomb claimed that he did not hit the water over the head. At his trial, he implied it was Simmonds who had hit Cecil Mills.
He implied, so he subtly kind of went, it wasn't me.
Yeah.
Maybe the other guy did it.
Don't do your Shaggy thing, please.
My Shaggy thing? I wasn't doing it.
No.
No, I wasn't
Always
going
bringing
to.
up Shaggy and Snooky for some reason.
Oh
aren't
my
you?
God, you're the Snooky addict, motherfucker.
No way.
Yes, way.
Sit on it, Tara.
Hey.
Hey. Newcomb also explained how the pair had eluded the police in the early days following their escape. They had made their way to the Sydney showgrounds. Some 60,000 corn bags were stacked in the big pavilion. In the middle of this pile, they carefully rearranged the bag into a tight little cubbyhole, 2 metres square.
Oh, they had a corn cubby.
Yeah, little love, Dan.
Oh, well, they made the corn pop.
They did.
With their
Indeed.
hot love.
It had taken them hours to rearrange the bags to appear undisturbed. It became their home for a whole week, except for food forays at night.
Oh, no, when they went out and got more milk.
Yeah. During part of that week, thousands of spectators flocked to the showground for an army tattoo. Now, they
Right.
didn't all get a tattoo.
The army. They all got the tattoo of
was-
the army. That would be a
No,
large
an
tattoo.
army tattoo, Tara, is like when they do all this marching and shit,
I know.
and people watch it.
I know. I'm an 800-year-old vampire. I know thing.
You know nothing.
I know nothing.
The public were developing a sneaking regard for Simo. It would grow in the weeks that followed. In some quarters, he would even gain the status of a folk hero and the like of Ned Kelly.
Well, I find that a bit weird because, like, he helped kill someone, and they're still like, Simo.
So he's been on the run for about
You
a month.
milk-loving bastard.
Yeah, milk-loving bastard. So it's been about a month now. He's been on the run.
Mm-hmm.
So schoolgirls confessed he had replaced Elvis as the subject of their teenage dreams.
Oh, well, that's not a good idea. I mean, Elvis had his issues, but he wasn't like a lactose-addicted murderer.
Oh, Simo.
Oh, Simo, come pour milk all over me.
Housewives left bottles of milk on their doorsteps after it was reported to be his favourite drink.
They were trying to attract him by leaving out
Oh,
milk.
Simo, I'll leave milk out for you.
I want to see your lethal haircut.
But the police were determined that this young hood from the bush would not make fools of them.
Hey, so the cops must be getting really pissed by this point, right?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
By this time, there were more than 300 police armed with Winchester carbines and submachine guns, plus sniffer dogs.
Cadaver dog. Do, 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 do.
No, you've just ruined the thing I was going to do later.
You can just fucking edit the things out I say. I mean, you have power here.
I do.
Yeah, but you're lazy. It's complicated.
Hey, you know what I could do? I could just edit you out completely.
Yes, you should just edit me out
No.
completely.
What did you think of that, Tara? You weren't in it. How about that?
It was the best episode I've ever heard. I love the Barney-only show.
Really?
Yeah, I'm your number one fan.
And by the way,
I'm going to Kathy Bates your ankles,
Well,
motherfucker.
hey, there's going to be no one in my show that's going to say, stop talking about Snooki. I'll just talk about fucking Snooki
the whole
whenever I
thing's
like.
about Snooki. You just touch yourself and talk about Snooki
I will.
again.
I will.
Case file who?
Hey, do you want to hear this? I'd like you more if you look more like Snooki. On November 5,
I'd like you more if you were nothing like you.
Ku-ring-gai Chase Park Ranger Green and his mate were driving along a bush track in their utility when they spotted a clod of earth fly into the air from an old gravel pit. They went to investigate and came face to face with a naked man, covered in grime and waving a pistol at them.
Sounds like my Friday night.
The man said he was Kevin Simmonds. He was digging a hole in which to hide a caravan that he planned to steal and use as a hideout.
That's going to be one big hole.
I know, so he's planning to dig a hole,
And
then
put a
steal a
caravan in
caravan,
it.
put it in there, and then he's going to hide out in it.
He's going to bury it and hide out in a caravan.
It's a bloody good plan.
Underground caravan. But, I mean, he will have to leave frequently to get milk, though. He should get a cow.
Yeah, cows are handy.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't get the milk for free, so he should buy a cow.
That's right. He was digging a hole in which to hide the caravan that he planned to steal and use as a hideout. I said that.
That's a bit more. Hey, we just jumped the shark, Snooki. And I'm Snooki Black.
One of these days, I'm going to kick your ass.
Yeah, if you can reach it.
What? You're pulling me short. Or are you overly tall? What is your ass, like 4 meters off the ground?
Yes.
Right.
That's why I have to wear a hat, an ass hat.
Well, I like shitting from a
sunburned.
great height, but you just do it all the time.
That's why it's got no novelty value to me.
The ranger said that was all very well. That was all very well, but you have no right to dig up any part of this protected bushland.
Well, that's true.
Simmonds stole their clothes and then ordered one of the men to tie the other, and then tied the second man himself to the first man.
Oh, did he tie them like together frontwards so
I
they
reckon-
felt awkward about their dicks touching?
God, I hope so.
That would be
Oh
kind
man,
of-
that's happened to all of us.
Yeah, it's a little awkward.
Simmonds got into the utility. The ranger asked whether he would mind leaving behind the keys to his office. Simmonds tossed them out the car as he sped off.
Oh, well, that was mighty neighbourly of him.
The chase for Simo became frenzied, involving nearly 500 policemen armed with guns, bulletproof vests, and fast cars.
Oh, the chase was on.
It is. At 5 o'clock the following morning, a car smashed through a roadblock outside Wyong on Newcastle Road. Patrolman David Highland roared after Simmonds' stolen car on his motorcycle for 16 kilometres. What's that, about 10 miles?
Yeah, it's not super
It's a bit of a car chase. Simmonds crashed the car into a bank. I don't think it's like a bank, like a place where you put money.
You mean like just like a bit of like, a raised area?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he jumped out. Highland fired at him as he raced across the paddock towards dense bush.
Dense bush. That's my drag name.
Simmonds was making for the Jillaby Ridge, with scores of police panting in the steaming heat, hard on his heels. Now, in some of the wildest bush country in the state, the chase followed wet, tangled gullies and scrub-covered hills.
Sounds like where I grew up.
In succeeding days, he had to contend with 500 heavily armed police, black trackers, that's Indigenous Australians who are good at tracking,
Yes.
and tracker dogs with leeches, ticks and snakes. Incessant rain was an advantage in eliminating his scent and indeed his tracks.
Yeah, it would have been. But it would have been fucking annoying.
So they nearly had him. 5 more days pass.
Oh, shit.
Hundreds of police searchers, soaked to their skins by rain, were being outwitted by the fugitive. Public sympathy for Simmonds increased.
And cop hatred must have grown.
The pursuing police didn't fare as well, having to kill at least 20 snakes. One detective found himself waist deep in mud, while another searcher became so lost and exhausted that he had to fire off 5 shots so he could be rescued.
I don't want to do this anymore.
At Kurri Kurri, is that Kurri Kurri? Kurri Kurri.
I think it's curry curry.
Kurri Kurri, north of Sydney. At first light on Saturday, November 14, a man spotted the ragged, barefoot fugitive breaking into a car. The man who was carrying a rifle yelled out and tried to fire, but it jammed. At that moment, a milk wagon came along the street.
Oh, well, that's his kryptonite,
That's
isn't it?
Simo bait, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. They
that-
should have just sent milk out in the wild. They could have caught him that way.
So in a strange turn of events, the milk wagon started chasing Kevin.
Well, they can't go very fast.
Kevin managed to start the car, and he outran the milkman.
That's the first time the milkman was chasing him as opposed to the other way around.
I know, that's what I was saying. But it was not Kevin's lucky day. The stolen car was out of petrol.
Uh-oh.
Or gas.
Whatever, man. Just keep moving.
He abandoned it and ran off into a local sports ground. Detective Sergeant Ray Kelly and a posse of police and dogs were at the scene in a flash. They closed in on an adjoining paddock. The man they were all seeking suddenly stepped from behind a tree. He was in a sorry state. His clothes were in tatters. His grimy skin was swollen with leeches and tick bites.
Yeah.
His feet were covered in blisters. He was hungry and mentally and physically exhausted.
And really craving milk.
Word spread like a bushfire. The whole of Kurri Kurri was there when Kevin Simmonds, looking slight and vulnerable between detectives, walked into the police station at 7 that morning.
Bet his hair didn't look so hot then.
One woman expressed the feelings of many who stared at the berackled fugitive when she called out, "Good on you, Kev."
Good on you, Kev. Nice one, Simo. Why would she say that? The cops must have been
Good
so
on you, Kev.
pissed. Nice one, Kev.
Inside the station, Simo gulped down 3 bottles of milk.
Ah, there you go.
The detectives were so relieved to have captured him, they couldn't do enough for him. Clubbing together, they made sure he had an enormous meal. Simo, in spite
Milk
of his
steak.
appearance, was in good health. He even told the police that he enjoyed the chase.
What?
In a way, it was a relief for everyone, for the police, the politicians, the public, and even for Simo himself. The court hearing at Wyong took on a circus air.
I like the circus. And I like air, so that sounds like my kind of thing. I'll go on, just abuse me. People like it.
The car which took him back to the police station was mobbed by girls, and Simmonds waved in movie star style from between 2 detectives in the back seat.
As the panties piled up on the hood of the car.
Yeah. It was worse at Sydney's Central Court in Liverpool Street. Mobs of people awaited his arrival. Office girls hung out of windows and shouted as Simmonds was led into the court. "On you, Simo!"
We love you, Simo!
A senior police officer called to the crowd, "If I had peanuts, I'd throw them at you monkeys."
Shut up! Simo rocks!
His defence lawyer told the court that the murder of Warder Cecil Mills was unpremeditated.
Right.
"This is the worst case of manslaughter I've ever known," said Mr. Justice
Really?
McClemens,
I've seen some
and
worse
sentenced
stuff.
both to life imprisonment. Simo and Newcombe were placed in the intractable section of Grafton Jail.
Intractable penis.
Intractable meaning hard to control or deal with. God, you're intractable, Tara.
I am an intractable penis.
So, Grafton Jail, where Simo was put, is about 413 miles north of Sydney, and it was costly for Simmonds' family to make the journey.
Oh, yeah.
But Simo's sister, Jan, made the occasional trip north, as well as keeping regular correspondence. As time progressed, Jan Simmonds began to see a noticeable change in her brother. His wide grin and cheerful sense of humour began to fade. He began to stutter and he shuffled when he walked.
Maybe he wasn't getting enough calcium. Deprived of milk.
In November 1966, so this is 7 years after he was jailed, Simo once more made the headlines. Somewhere between 9:45 and 11:45 p.m. on November 3, Simo died in cell number 7.
Oh, shit.
To all appearances, he had hung himself. It was reported that Kevin Simmonds was subjected to moods of depression and had been suffering from a psychiatric setback.
Okay, now you said that it appeared that he had, so clearly something's amiss here.
Yeah. Jan Simmonds was determined to discover why her brother, who entered Grafton Jail in a peak of physical and mental condition, should have been reduced to a twitching, stuttering shadow of his former self.
Not enough milk, I'm telling you.
What she discovered would later be confirmed in the report made by the Royal Commission headed by Mr Justice Nagle into the New South Wales prison system. In her personal inquiry, Jan Simmonds questioned prisoners who had been in the Grafton track section. Many things were told to her about Grafton and the treatment prisoners received there from warders. One in particular provides a vivid insight in the circumstances leading up to Kevin Simmonds' death. So this is a anonymous prisoner who didn't want to be named. I think his initials are CS.
Lewis? Was it C.S. Lewis?
No, it wasn't C.S. Lewis.
Okay. It's the only CS I know.
When I arrived at Grafton, Simo had already been there in track for about 6 years. About 2 years later, he died in his cell one night. During those 2 years, he was beaten almost every day. For the 4 months that we shared a yard, I could see the bruises and marks on his body, including his testicles, which were purple-coloured and swollen to the size of oranges.
What?
He was constantly picked on and harassed by officers. For example, one day from church, he was returned to the yard for allegedly turning around. We were paraded to the shower, and on the way, the Deputy Governor grabbed Simo out of the march and smashed his head against the railings.
Oh, shit.
All the Deputy Governor said was, "You fucking bastard, I will teach you to talk in church." He hit his head at least a dozen times, pretty hard blows, and his throat was badly marked and he was choking and gagging.
Oh.
That evening he received an extra special beating. I do not know who the officers were, but I could identify the noise coming from Kevin's cell. It lasted for about 5 minutes, baton blows, slaps, etc. I could recognise Kevin's voice shouting, "Leave me alone, don't hit me no more," or words something like that. His mental condition began to deteriorate. His speech began to ramble and become incoherent. As this progressed, the officers seemed to pick on him even more. A few days before his death, I noticed burn marks all over his arms. They were small red blisters resembling cigarette burns. Simo did not smoke. He tried to keep his arms covered at the shower, but I was able to see them. At this stage, we could hear him being beaten almost every night. He refused to discuss what was happening to him. I asked him a number of times, but he would just look terrified. At this stage, he found it difficult to walk because of the state of his testicles.
Oh, God.
On the day he died, I heard him being beaten about 4:30 p.m. It was a fairly severe beating. It lasted for about 5 minutes, mostly baton blows. After that, there was complete silence. I never saw him again. The guards told me something like, "Watch what you say," and I knew what they meant by that.
Oh, my God. So he was injured everywhere, but probably head injuries as well.
Well, he did. He killed a prison guard.
Right.
So what are the prison guards going to do?
Oh, man. Wow,
They're
that
gonna make him
sounds
suffer.
really harsh.
So, yeah, he got 6 years of this.
Shit.
It's just awful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really,
I mean,
really
he did
tough.
kill someone. He deserved to be in prison, but he didn't deserve that.
Yeah.
That's just torture.
Well, that is actually torture, yes.
Leslie Newcomb wrote a book in 1979 about...
That's the guy he escaped with, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
about that whole experience. As did Simo's sister, Jan Simmonds. She wrote a book in 1980, and she called her book For Simo.
Oh, for Simo.
Yeah.
So, was there any sort of ramifications for this, and for them faking his suicide?
No one got charged for it, but there was a royal commission into prison cruelty after that. And
Okay.
they shook the system up a lot after that, yeah.
Well, I would hope so. That's really fucked.
No.
I know we don't normally empathise with murderers, but that's just really intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, yuck. So I keep picturing these really swollen testicles now, and it's disturbing me.
Do you want to see some normal size ones? Would that make you feel better?
Well, aren't yours huge?
Yeah, no, mine aren't normal size.
Oh, but you can show me someone else's.
I'd have to look it up.
Gonna Google something.
I'll just Google that. Hey, I think it's time for an Aussie Az. What do you think?
Yeah, usually when I feel like sad and dark, it's time for an Aussie Az. All right, time for an Aussie Az. These are tales of criminal stupidity with a quintessentially Australian flavour. So Harrison Williams, 26, was on a boating excursion with friends off the coast of Western Australia when they came across a dead whale. One of me mates thought it'd be pretty funny if I surfed the whale, so I just did it, Williams told the Seven Network. He launched himself into the water and then clambered onto the rotting carcass. But his friend's mirth quickly turned to horror when they noticed all the sharks swimming around the whale, feasting on its flesh. "Hazza, there's sharks there! Come back!" screamed one of his friends in a video of the bizarre scene. That's on YouTube too, so you can have a look at this.
Those sharks are huge
They
too.
were really big. Several tiger sharks and at least one great white shark were seen feeding on the carcass and swimming around while he's doing this. Williams said he'd seen the sharks, including the great white, before he jumped in, but that didn't put him off taking the leap.
What a butt nugget.
He was too busy chomping on the whale, so it wasn't too bad, he told the Seven Network. But not everyone was impressed. The Department of Fisheries said his behaviour was risky and irresponsible, and Williams' parents were none too pleased. "Well, me mum thinks I'm an idiot, and Dad's not too proud either," he said. He said he now agrees with their assessment and is pretty grateful to still be alive. Authorities say that because the whale was dead and Williams didn't remove any part of it, he won't be fined for his actions. The carcass actually then washed up on a beach, and the authorities had to close the beach and two others nearby.
Did they blow it up?
No, they didn't. Oh, that's good footage.
Did they explode it?
No, but there were sharks in the area because the whale washed up. So all the sharks were like, "No, where'd my dinner go?" Williams, meanwhile, says he won't be trying any similar stunts again. "Well, I've done it," he said. "Don't need to do it again."
I wish he would.
What a knucklehead. Seriously, sharks. Don't fuck with sharks, mate. They will bite you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah. Aussie Az, mate. Aussie Az.
Nice one, Tara. Hey, this show was brought to us.
By our beautiful patrons.
Wasn't brought to us. Let me try that again.
I don't know. It was brought to you guys.
Hey, this show was brought to you by our patrons. We want to name them.
And the opposite of shame them. We want to name them and celebrate them.
Sean, it went off while I was cleaning at Whelan.
Kelly, if the gloves don't fit, you must acquit Brighton.
David, my dirty pillows are beanbags.
Jim, say hello to my little friend, DeGriz.
Manners, you don't want to spray my bedroom with luminol.
Kinnan, bring out the GIMP 10.
Frankie, I wear brown panties for a reason. Jay Sakara.
Oh, she's going to hate that. Ab, Black Widow, hate.
Holly, Cadaver Dog. Do 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 do.
Cadaver Dog.
Andrew.
Do, 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 do. If you'd like to support us, visit our Podbean page and click on the Patreon button. There are some sweet, sweet benefits to be had.
There's also a link to our merch store. There's a new Captain Moonlight shirt there now. You
There
can get on a
is.
mug. And we got some mugs, and they look awesome.
Oh, they're so big.
We'll put some photos up
It
there.
was really exciting, actually.
They're really cool.
You could have, I don't know, so much coffee in one of those fuckers.
So all of those links are in the show notes.
They are indeed.
So I guess the only thing to say now is I've been Barney Black.
Well, I was you earlier, but now I'm Tara Saraban.
And we just did some bloody murder.
Please don't forget to review us on iTunes.
And of course, rate and subscribe. It really helps us grow.
Feel free to join our Facebook group, Bloody Murder Podcast, or like our page, Bloody
Yeah,
Murder.
the group's kind of fun. We've got a nice little community
Kind
there now.
of. The group's awesome. Kind of my ass.
Follow us on Twitter and Tumblr and all those bloody things.
Are you on Tumblr? I'm on Instagram and Twitter. Do you have a Tumblr?
Yeah, I got a Tumblr.
What is it?
Bloody Murder.
Tumblr. Okay, well that makes sense.
Yeah.
So thank you for listening, and we'll be back next week.
Goodbye and adios.
And keep kicking against the pricks. So that guy really fucking loved milk, didn't he?
You really love milk. I can smell something, is it?
No. Generally, if there's a smell, I
It's probably that fart that I just did.
Oh. It's surprised with you how.
lying that it wasn't on, and they were using sonic pressure on my head since 1997.